afternoon to all of you. Thank you, Seesaw, for thinking creatively to use an alternative medium for driving change and for inculcating change dynamics in the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Thank you to all of you for braving your hunger since 10 in the morning and still patiently taking your seats to share this journey with us. I had prepared for about a 45 to 1 hour presentation, but I will probably do a short half hour so that people say that when we have to pursue the arts and we have to engage in the process of art, aesthetics cannot be pursued if there are not right hygiene conditions. So I do understand it's late. And I'm very happy that we all had a very engaging panel. I'd like to congratulate Seesaw for launching this course on organizational development and change management. It's a privilege to be part of this whole initiative. But I was here earlier during Manthan and talking about how music is a great platform, is a great tool for therapy. A lot of us use music as, to serve our aesthetic purposes, for entertainment, to listen to kind of songs and melodies and orchestrations that we like. We associate music with the visual arts a lot. And we also associate music with a lot of the milestones in our own personal journeys. However, there is more to music than that meets the eye. The world today is opening up to the relevance and criticality of all-round development and wellness of individuals, and of course professionals. I heard the panel, a lot of the distinguished panelists talk when I was backstage, because we do have speakers there. And a lot of you who spoke in the panel talked about how the approach has to be holistic, how context is so essential to be able to drive home change or any kind of strategic initiative. How it's about looking out that creates a lot of depth inwards and helps us grow personally. So as an artist, I'm very happy, and I would like to congratulate TISS once again for using these various forms of mediums of learning. Vividha is the course that Professor VK and I have been talking about, and how we could use this medium of music to drive home some of the change theories, and also to let people and students in the classroom think, I won't use the word out of the box, that's been used and abused so much in the management world, but how a lot of things which are so close to life, a lot of realizations, experiences that are very close to life are also very relevant to the workplace. Music develops skills that I think some of the textbooks are challenged to develop amongst us. And the most special skill or the special trait that we can develop through the medium of music is being sensitive. It also helps us heighten our listening, because obviously music is experienced through listening. The artist also listens to herself or himself. When I'm talking to you and when I've sung those notes out, I was listening to the tanpura, which are the notes that support and enables the musical performance. The tanpura is like the star notes of like the star members of your team. You can't do without them, but you can't just do with them. Along with the star performers in your team, you also have a lot of other enablers, the enterprising performers, the average performers. So it makes us sensitive to different skill sets and different points of views. It helps us include diversity in our lives, because it's just not the special and the visible and the in your face that matters. It's also about subtle enablers in our life that help us become who we are. Before I talk about how we're going to take Vividha forward using the tool of music, I'm sure Vijay has been working very, very deeply on what are the various kinds of interventions that we're going to use in the Vividha course, and of course, music is one of the integral ones. Let me tell you how music works in the mind and body of the individual. Because when we talk about change and when we read the three big change gurus, whether it's Agairis or Shine or Peter Senge, we see that a lot of the onus of change is in the individual. How the individual reacts to the demands of the change, how the individual reacts to the influences that drive him or her towards change, and how the individual adapts to the emotions that the environment throws at him due to the change. So let's look at where does change actually move from. We think that the strategist is the mover and shaker of change. The theory helps us design and redesign change. But I think it's the person and the team members who are involved in the change movement that we can first look at and concentrate on. So if it's about the person and the human being, it's about how the human being emotes and reacts and adapts to the environment and to the message or the vision or the strategy that the organization or the leader is trying to drive. Change can be internal, driven because leadership wants a change. A change can be external because the market demands and forces us to adapt and change. The individual cannot just depend on his body of knowledge and experience to be a change agent. The individual also has to look at his own mind and body and the soul that we can't touch, the alignment of the soul. So how does music work as a therapy? Very short, the context, because I heard one of the lady panelists saying how important context is to the whole game of change. So music from the musician travels through sound waves to the target, for example, all of you sitting here. And as soon as the brain hears the melody, it reacts in two ways. There are two simultaneous processes that happen in the human mind and body. The mind reacts to the stimulus and says, I think we like what we are hearing. I mean, we hear so many sounds through the day. You must be hearing sounds like pap, 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 the honk of the BST horn. It's also two notes. Sa, 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 ni, 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 sa, 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 ni, ni. But we don't roll down our glasses and start dancing to the tune of the honk of the BST bus. Music is created by these 7 notes. And these 7 notes have an amazing power to create all the music in the world. And these 7 notes work on the principle of love and respect and dignity. So it's about loving your own craft, your own self. And if we really love these notes and the sound that these notes generate, and we respect the tradition, the discipline behind these notes, that's when melodies get created. So 7 notes, and how do we create so many different kinds of music? Bilawal is a morning rag. We're not in the morning anymore, we're moving towards the afternoon. There are various kinds of rags that impact the human metabolism, and the National Brain Research Center is embarking on a research study on how music impacts the cognitive preservation, makes the mind more healthier, the cells of the brain more healthier, which helps us in learning. I'm sure we can at one time collaborate with the NBRC. If you're not used to the notes, just watch out. I'm not using any notes except these 7 notes. Sorry, we couldn't do much of a sound check. We didn't want to keep you waiting. So So this is how music is created in the classical, traditional, structured, textual world. You have a combination of notes, you work around it. There is a technique, much like Senge says, there is a technique and there is emotion that influences the technique. It's, if I were to use one of the theories and use it as a metaphor for how we weave music, it's definitely Peter Senge's. There is, the technique is there. There is the whole laboratory in which we're doing music, like the Guru Shishya Parampara, and the science of music that is taught by the Guru. And in fact, today music is taught through written text. Even Indian music is taught through written texts. However, in Indian music, that's the reason we want to use the medium of Indian music in Vividha, is that along with text and technique, a lot is left to the imagination of the emotion of the artist. So every time there is a policy that needs to be deployed in an organization, let's take that as SOP or a policy to be deployed. It's the leader's intuition, the leader's imagination, the leader's personal perspective, his behavioral background that ensures how that policy is going to be implemented. So Indian music is so much technique and emotion, the synthesis of technology as well as behavior. Because if you don't have this whole setup, you won't be able to hear this sound. But if I don't have my emotions in playing the music, it'd be just like any other orchestra and very digital. That's how live music still rules, because we want to go and hear how every musician interprets the technique that has been handed down from generations by the gurus and the stakeholders of music, how the musician interprets that technique and creates it for the current context, creates it for an audience that comes to listen to his or her music. Sa re ga pa ma ga re ga pa ma ga ma re sa re sa. Rag Bilawal, one of the first rags that is taught in the Indian classical system. How do different people use the same technique with the different behaviors or their emotions? Let's look at popular music. Let me not look at how different pundits and gurus have used Bilawal. We don't have that much time. I hope you recognize the tune that I'm going to break into from these 7 notes. Sa pa ma re ma ga, sa pa ma re ma ga, sa pa ma re ga ma ga, sa pa ma re ma ga. Your keyboards are. Sa pa ma re ma ga, sa pa ma re ga ma ga, sa ni sa re ga ma ga, sa ni sa ni sa. Any clues? That's a music director who used Bilawal. Sa pa ma re ma ga re sa ni da ni sa re ga ma pa ma ga re ma ga. Sa pa ma re pa ma, sa pa ma re pa ma, sa pa ma re ga ma ga, sa ni sa re ga ma ga, sa ni sa re, sa ni sa. Love's the interpretation of the 7 notes is what creates the difference in the whole process or in the whole offering of music in this context. A lot of people have shared a lot of valuable insights since morning, so I decided that I will do a little, much less of talking than the 3-page script I had for my presentation, so I'm not using it. And so that's one song, and you knew how the Bollywood music director used the same structure. So it's about what is the assumption of music, or the assumption of the text of music, and what reality can be. And of course the conflict of change in the musical world also comes from what is the assumption, or what is the theory, and what could be the reality, and how we can move from the theory to the reality to the current context, is how smooth the transition of change would be. Various people have used various rags and compositions, but obviously if we were to use music in Vividha, we're not sure if each of the students would have an orientation of Indian classical music. So we're going to use the structure of Indian classical music, we're going to use these 7 notes, we're going to use the whole dynamics of melody and rhythm. You saw how I was trying to play a piece, and how melody was supporting me and how the rhythm was supporting me. So there are a lot of dependencies that are there in music. So it's not just the rag that I want to project, it's also the rhythm in which I want to create that composition. So that's going to be very relevant to the way the music sounds and the melody sounds. So it could be various kinds of tunes. So if you were to use the raga structure and look at how it can be used in creative ways in different kinds of situations, you've got to use Bollywood as a very strong medium for this course, looks like. We will use various other genres of music also, but we've got to see what the profiling of the students are of the class, because if you are not entrenched in classical music, we'll not be able to use the rags in their entirety. We've got to use variations of the rag through popular music. The same notes of Bilawal. Song it is. You can sing a little bit. I know you are tired and it's lunchtime. So that's the way we could interpret various melodies. And the next thought that I wanted to share with you is that music also has a set design. So there are various ways in which we look at the way we want to present music. Like I talked about Peter Senge, I'm completely bowled over by the way he maneuvers his whole change theory, and it's so similar to the way we do it in Indian music. Then of course there is the whole concept of Aguirre's design, that everything that we do, human behavior is a consequence of design. So our entire Indian classical music moves with design, and so does today modern music. So there is classical music with discipline, with traditional do's and don'ts, and there is modern music which is still not written down. Rahman doesn't write down the way he wants to use his song. He draws parallels from a bit of Western classical, he takes a few techniques from Indian classical or Carnatic, and that's what the 3 Faces of Eden that we're going to use as one of the courses for Vividha says that it's not we can't take one change theory as the only one. We've got to integrate and take the best of both and use it contextually. So there is the text and the design, but when you really want to create something new, you may have to take bits of all three of them probably. There is Shine also, who says that culture evolves and culture creates, understanding of the culture creates the change that one wants to see. But coming back to Agairis, we're looking at, drawing a metaphor in where Indian music starts with the alap, the way the whole rag is explored. Then it goes to the tempo and the bandish or the composition. And then the composition moves in slow pace, then medium pace, and then goes into fast pace. So there is one completely set of designed melody which is called the alap without the rhythm. There is a fully designed programmed melody which is with the tal, which is called the bandish, and there is a fully designed crescendo when the whole bandish moves into the fast-paced tempo. And a lot of classical musicians today still follow the design. So every time you want to do a different way in which you want to do Rag Yaman, for example, you change the entire design and the program. And only then do you write it out and you create a completely different program. So that's another theory that we're going to take and use the concept of Indian classical music. I'm going to show you how design and development of the design works through a rag Yaman, which is not a rag of this time of the day, but I will try to use that. So there is alap, which introduces the rag. So you're talking about what the current scenario is. There is the bandish, that could be the whole process of change, and there could be the end of the bandish, which could be the outcome of the change. And we'll probably create pieces which are more comprehensible, easy for some of the students to, some of them can even sing out some of those bandishes if they like singing. Because singing is a very easy tool which we thought we will use. Vocal is a very easy tool to use instead of an instrument. And who knows, in the class we may have a few people who play the guitar, or maybe someone who plays the violin for all, and of course there could be percussionists. We've got to use some of the talents of the people in the class to be able to drive this. But vocal platform is what we really want to use, with very, very simple renditions of what alap is, what the bandish is, and how the crescendo is reached. Just out of context here, whether it's a Bollywood song or a completely or a jazz or a rock or an item number in Bollywood, it's just the 7 notes. Let us respect diversity and differences and difference in tastes. There is music is the most purest form of expression. These 7 notes are the only notes that are used, whether it's in Kaisi Paheli or in a ghazal or in a nazam or in an item number or even in a Hollywood song. Sa 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 ni sa. Sa sa ni sa re ga re, sa 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 ni sa pa. Far across the sun, sa sa ni sa re ga re, sa 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 ni sa pa. Sa re sa pa ma ga re ga ma ga re sa ni sa. Love will touch us one time and last for a lifetime. Sa 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 sa. example of how the notes move and how a different emotion creates a completely different melody. Design in Indian music, and we are looking at using the whole concept of how we design every composition and taking a bit from Agar's theory of every human action is a consequence of design. The alap, the first introduction of the rag in Rag Yaman. Yaman Kalyan in Rupak. Here comes in the element of the rhythm. Some of the outliers that we have to take into context when we look at change or development. And rhythm is a completely independent element, however extremely aligned. We have to adapt to the rhythm. Yes, all of us think that the rhythm is playing with the main melody, but actually the main melody is aligning to the rhythm of the day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ti, ti, na, ti, na, ti, na, ti, ti, na. can applaud. Well, that was a very, very quick and kind of time-bound rendition of how design at every stage is what how the design of a completely Indian classical presentation can be designed, can be performed. And you saw how two different elements joined me, but how the melody was resonating what I was playing, and how the rhythm was completely playing a different language. So at times we need to adapt to the rhythm or the pace or the dynamics of the market, probably, or the dynamics of the changes that's happening in the market. And we also always expect that the rhythm will be always adapting to us. So in the change process, we've got to be cognizant of the fact that elements that come together are also elements that we need to adapt to in the process. So I'm going to come to the last section of, yes, I have something more too. There's a third piece that I have, very, very short. I'm so sorry. Are you okay to hold on to your, great. So we talked, because I wanted to just give you a sneak preview of how we would probably look at the three faces of Eden, for example. And coming to Edgar Schein's, and as the change evolves, however, at the end of the day, the all-pervading culture of the leaders of the organization does have a final say on how does the conflict between the evolving culture and the already existing culture of an organization, how does the conflict come across? So when I saw Schein talking so much about culture and how he's been called, the ethnologist of the whole, Peter does, Senge does the experimentation, and Agaris is always talking about logic, and how Schein uses the culture piece. I thought we must use the elements of the folk music and the cultural essence that different parts of the different regions of our country give us. So I'm going to do a very short rendition of a piece which has got the structure of maybe a typical classical organization. When I look at a piece, I call it the organization. However, we have the alap and the beginning, we have the body of the whole piece, and at the end, there is also crescendo that's building up, but it's all in the folk, in the cultural element, which means the language and the lyrics change. Mic laga denge samne. And the notes is based on the Rag Bhopali. And as folk culture demands that you don't, the Assamese folk is what I want to take because it's part of my home state. So obviously I would like to work on a cultural setting that's very close to where I come from, because I can maneuver and probably handle the conflicts more easily. So this is an Assamese piece which is the Assamese Bihu form, and the form demands that you stand up. No one can sit and play or sing the Bihu. And we're going to use something like the violin, which I never used in Assamese folk, or most of the folk forms, because you have the indigenous folk instruments. But I would probably like to use something like the violin to talk about that, to represent that piece. And could you give a small internote, like get up and before I start? You would need the track for this. Thanks for coming. Well, it's absolutely impossible to set up a musical presentation in 5 minutes break that we gave you. So you've got to bear with us when we're giving. We're still doing so many changes as we are going ahead with the music setup. But the idea was to just give you a small preview of how the medium can be used. And I hope it's making sense for you till now. It is? Okay, so this piece is completely for myself. Okay, I'm playing because I want to play the piece, because I saw a lot of correlation to when we were preparing the whole paper on Three Faces of Eden. And this is one of my favorite pieces, Ganga Siloni, Rati Pore Pore, Ganga Siloni, Kiyo Toy Matisa, Ganga Siloni Ture Mate Huni, Ganga Siloni, Rati Nai Tuponi. It's about restlessness, it's about love or pining, it's the way you look at it. It's about nature blooming during springtime. And the bird from the Ganges comes to the Brahmaputra during springtime, and that's the time when people all around Assam start thinking that spring is close by. The floods have already happened, so people are sad. Some of their homes are washed away. Some of the looms of the girls have gone away. But still, they still have the love of life, and they want to celebrate the festive season called Bihu. And this whole Bihu is structured in Rag Bhupali, not going out of the structure of the Rag, but I'm using the folk context. যৌবনৰ পুৰণি খহিব নোৱাৰো ঐ বুকে খুন্দামাৰি ধৰে with playing the violin for a folk piece. You don't stand up and play the violin, but we've got to, go out of our zones.